lot of people think that the fishing for roach and the fishing for bream, that what they should be feeding is ground bait. Now I know that England's got a reputation all across Europe, and a justifiable reputation for being experts at fishing what we call double leaf. Can you run us through a bit what double leaf is when we do it?
Yeah, I mean double leaf, most of the times in Europe, to be honest with you, Dave, we use double leaf as a top-up mix. We don't use it as an initial. It's a way of putting X amount of joker, whether it be a lot or a small amount, on a sixpence. We know exactly where it is, and we can drop our rib on top of it. Sometimes we use it to catch big fish, not so many. And other times we use it to catch quantities of, say, skimmers, as an example. We used it in Hungary, where we caught skimmers a few years ago on the pole, and it just congregates them. We've baited a big area, but then we've got a hot spot, and that creates that hot spot where you can drop the rig on, and it's somewhere you can top up regularly. And it's just, with skimmers in particular, that's an important thing when they're feeding really, really well. So that's what we've used it for mostly. But we've also used lean instead of ground bait on some very difficult venues where we felt that the ground bait wasn't working, and if anything, it was having a detrimental effect to what we were trying to achieve.
You were saying was in a World Championship situation where you get that week of intensive pressure. But we'll take ground bait at the start parts, but to constantly keep putting ground bait in you can.
Yeah, I mean, you've got. If you think about it, you've got 5 days practicing on a peg, and if you're actually on a peg that's been fished for 5 days, you've got 5 different lots of ground bait being thrown in there, and then you're going to throw in another lot and hope to catch exact. So sometimes, it can be an advantage not to put the ground bait.
Right.
And sometimes I've had one instance, and I spoke to you before, where I got to the swim and there was fish blowing, not big fish, small fish, but I could see, and the last thing I wanted to do was to ball it like everybody else. And as it happened, I didn't. I spoke to the management if they were okay with me not doing that, and they said, you fish it how you see it. And I said, well, I'd rather not. He said, well, okay, you do that. And I just cut it in, and everyone else balled it. I didn't win the section, but I think I was 5th, but I was happy to come 5th in the section rather than risk killing it. I knew that if there were fish were feeding on whatever had been put in there the day before, and I couldn't see the point of just crashing another lot on top of them and run the risk of pushing them all out and maybe not catching half what I caught. And it was a very difficult venue as well, didn't it?
Yeah, looking back on it. One of the things you were saying about double in that again is interesting is the way it's quite heavy and it goes down sort of fairly solid.
It does.
What happens to the joker once that leaves at the bottom?
Well, it just breaks up into like a little pile of, like a pyramid of salt, really. And it's I can't say for sure, but I still think a lot of the joker stays in the lean, and then obviously it skirts around. The stuff that tumbles down the sides is around the edges of the lean. So it's just a nice. Like you've laid a table for a fish there, a small table. If you could, especially when you're catching big fish, if you can put your hook bait in amongst it, it's a bit like fishing a method feeder, if you like.
Yeah, you're sitting right in.
And you can't get better than that for big fish.
Yeah. Right. One thing you were saying as well about when you put the balls in with levers, is you're going to kill some of the joker squeezing the ball. It's going to. Yeah,
you'll kill a little bit, but not too much, because if you get it exactly right, the lean, you don't have to squeeze it many times. I said earlier that 2 or 3, and that's enough to hold it and get it to the bottom. So you're not actually popping it or any of it at all. It might be an odd bit, but not very, very little.
Right.